4-year-old Ibrahim Traoré is the new self-declared leader of Burkina Faso. He overthrew the president, Paul-Henri Damiba, alongside a group of soldiers.
In a stunning show of military precision and iron-fisted leadership, Burkina Faso's captain Ibrahim Traoré has once again made global headlines, this time for orchestrating a deadly ambush that wiped out over 1,000 terrorists in just one coordinated strike. This isn't fiction, this is real-time warfare in West Africa, where insurgents, extremists, and foreign-backed militias have plagued the region for years. But now, the tables have turned. Under the command of Traoré, a 36-year-old revolutionary leader who seized power to defend his nation, Burkina Faso's military has unleashed a wave of counter-terrorism operations like nothing the Sahel has seen before. Backed by cutting-edge intelligence and a fierce nationalistic spirit, Traoré's forces executed a strategic ambush that didn't just neutralize a threat, it sent a global message. Burkina Faso will no longer be a playground for terrorists. In this deep dive, we break down exactly how this operation unfolded, the planning, the terrain, the intel, and the firepower. Who were these 1,000 terrorists? What were their goals? And how did one of Africa's youngest leaders deliver such a crushing blow without Western backup? This is more than a battlefield story. It's a symbol of rising African sovereignty, military transformation, and the fight for stability in a region on the brink. Get ready, because what you're about to hear might just change how you view modern warfare and the man they now call the Lion of Ouagadougou. A nation under siege, a captain with fire. In the golden dust plains of the Sahel, Burkina Faso had become a war drum that refused to be silenced. Blood had soaked too many village paths, mothers had cried too many nights, and farmers had abandoned fields that once sang with millet and sorghum. Yet, in the middle of the chaos, a young captain, Ibrahim Traoré, rose not as a politician, but as a fighter carved from the same stone as Sankara, bold and unforgiving. When his soldiers struck a blow that buried 1,000 terrorists in one sweeping ambush, it wasn't just military strategy, it was the roar of a people reclaiming their land. Burkina Faso had been reeling for years under the weight of insurgent groups, Al-Qaeda-affiliated cells, Islamic State militants, and bandit militias with no god but violence. These groups had not just attacked checkpoints or looted arms. They had killed schoolteachers, burned market stalls, kidnapped girls, and desecrated mosques. They had tried to make fear the national anthem, but Traoré's ambush shattered that song into silence. Operation Tempête de Feu, Firestorm, the ambush that roared. It was not just another operation. It was the culmination of months of tactical planning, local intelligence, drone surveillance, and ground coordination. The military had mapped the terrorist movements like a griot memorizing an epic. For weeks, they watched a major terror convoy snake through the northern corridors of the country. The militants had grown bold, believing the government was weak and the army poorly equipped. They underestimated the new order. Traoré's elite strike units, drawn from the Rapid Intervention Battalion, BIR, and the Cobra Commando Forces, coordinated with volunteer fighters from the VDP, Volontaires pour la Défense de la Patrie, civilians trained and armed to defend their own lands. It was a brotherhood forged in fire, a fusion of army discipline and village heart. On that fateful morning, dawn broke with an eerie silence. No birdsong, no village chatter, only the tense breath of the forest. Then, as a convoy of over 1,000 terrorists advanced through the Arbinda-Tinikoff corridor, the trap snapped shut like a lion's jaw. From above, helicopters unleashed a storm of missiles. On the ground, armored units sealed off escape routes, while snipers took positions along the cliffs. Local VDPs, many wielding only AKs and machetes, moved through the brush like ghosts, striking with precision. The fighting raged for 6 relentless hours. The earth trembled with the roar of battle. And when the smoke cleared, the scale of the victory was undeniable. Over 1,000 enemy combatants lay dead. Dozens more fled, wounded and broken. It was not just a tactical win, it was a roar of defiance echoing across the Sahel. Intelligence is the drumbeat before the dance. The ambush's success was not solely due to military strength. It was the result of deep coordination between local communities and military intelligence. Under Captain Ibrahim Traoré's leadership, Burkina Faso has embraced a grassroots approach to security. The regime has established zones de défense populaire, areas where villagers actively contribute intelligence by reporting suspicious activity. This strategy has transformed civilians into key players in national defense. Market vendors, nomadic herders, and even schoolboys have become the army's early warning system. In this latest operation, a remarkable alliance of Fulani, Mossi, and Gourmanche communities supplied weeks of real-time information. These communities had suffered firsthand from terrorist brutality, burned villages, poisoned wells, and the abduction of children. Their weapon of choice became intelligence. They passed along information quietly, strategically, with a sense of vengeance and purpose. What's unfolding in Burkina Faso is a shift in counterinsurgency, a movement no longer led solely by commanders, but by the people. From the market stalls of Kaya to the pastures of Dori, ordinary citizens have woven a web of vigilance. When the army moves, it does so with the heartbeat of its people. This is no longer a distant military effort, it's the nation itself, clapping back in unity. The rise of the Cobra Forces, Spirit of Sankara Reborn. Many soldiers fighting in this operation wore insignias of the Forces Spéciales Cobra, a new generation of fighters forged under Traoré's revolutionary banner. These aren't just gunmen, they are ideologues, trained to believe in sovereignty, in Pan-Africanism, and in the sacredness of the homeland. They chant the words of Thomas Sankara before missions. They do not pillage, they do not rape, they protect. And in the heat of this operation, their discipline and courage turned the tide. Reports say one Cobra unit, outnumbered 3-1, held a ridge for 2 hours until air support arrived. One survivor, a Cobra sergeant named Moussa Diallo, told local media, "We fight with bullets, but also with rage. Not anger that burns, but rage that remembers. Every child kidnapped, every mosque burned. This is not just defense, this is spiritual war." A new Burkina, the land bites back. In villages like Barcelogo, Seitenga, and Kane, where women used to wail in the night, songs have returned. When the news spread that over 1,000 terrorists had been neutralized in one blow, there were spontaneous celebrations in town squares. Drums were beaten, food was shared, and in some areas, people even painted Captain Traoré's face on their walls. He has become more than a soldier. To many, he is a symbol of defiance, a young man in his 30s who stood before the old colonial puppets and said, "No more." Under his leadership, Burkina Faso is reclaiming not just territory, but dignity. This ambush was not just a military event, it was a cultural reset. It signaled to insurgents and to the world that Africa does not need foreign troops to defend herself. That if armed, respected, and united, the sons and daughters of the continent can defend their land like lions in the dust. The cost of victory, blood, and brotherhood. Yet the operation came at a cost. Several soldiers and volunteers for the defense of the homeland, VDPs, gave their lives, brave men whose sacrifices will echo through generations. The military acknowledged the casualties, but focused on the courage and purpose these fighters embodied. Funerals were conducted with dignity and honor. In towns like Djibo, grief was met with pride. Mothers stood tall, and widows spoke with unwavering strength. Aissatu, whose husband fell in battle, said, "He died defending the soil our children will walk on. Let the ground remember his footsteps." Her words reflect the deep cultural view that death in battle is not an end, but a transformation. In African tradition, such warriors become more than memories. They become ancestors of the struggle, spiritual guardians of future battles. Their legacy lives on in every drumbeat of resistance, every act of defiance, and every step toward a freer tomorrow. Beyond the ambush, the echoes across West Africa. The recent military operation in northern Burkina Faso has sent ripples across West Africa, resonating deeply in neighboring Mali, Niger, and even Nigeria. Unlike past efforts influenced by foreign military contractors and global agendas, this campaign was distinctly homegrown, planned, led, and executed by Burkinabe forces. Its success marks a turning point, offering a blueprint for African-led security solutions free from external dependence. Mali and Niger, themselves under military leadership, swiftly responded with messages of solidarity. They not only congratulated Burkina Faso, but also signaled readiness to coordinate joint operations, highlighting a growing sense of regional unity. The Alliance of Sahel States, AES, a political and military bloc formed by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, is seizing the opportunity to expand its influence and take decisive steps against extremist threats still lingering across the region. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, in a stirring radio address, captured the broader vision. "We are not isolated. Burkina Faso is the drum, but the rhythm is African. When we strike, we do so for all who are tired of being shadows in their own lands." His words reflect a growing movement, one that centers African dignity, sovereignty, and the right to self-determined peace and security. The message to the world: don't mistake silence for weakness. For years, international analysts predicted Burkina Faso would collapse. They said the army was too under-equipped, the government too young, the society too fragmented. But this ambush rewrote the script. Without NATO, without the UN, without France's shadow, Burkina Faso struck a historic blow. The message is clear: Africa has her own warriors. Africa can defend herself. This operation is being studied in African military academies. Young cadets are learning that strategy mixed with heart, culture mixed with courage, can defeat even the most brutal insurgents. It is the African way, not with endless talking, but with movement. Ending of blood and glory. There is no need for brass bands or media spectacles. The land speaks, the trees remember, the dust settles. In the valleys of northern Burkina Faso, where once only fear walked freely, now freedom sings in birdsong and rifle echoes. 1,000 terrorists dead. A message written not in ink, but in action. Traoré's Burkina Faso is not perfect, but it is rising. And in that rise, a continent remembers its power. 1,000 enemies, 1 ambush, 0 mercy. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's bold move is being praised not just as a military victory, but as a statement of power, strategy, and defiance. Burkina Faso, once seen as a fragile state overwhelmed by jihadist terror, is now rising, swinging back with a vengeance. And at the heart of it all is a man who didn't wait for international permission, he acted. But this victory raises serious questions. What comes next for Burkina Faso? Will Traoré's aggressive stance draw more enemies, or rally more allies in the region? How will France, the UN, and the West react to a nation that's clearly breaking from traditional influence and charting its own path? And perhaps most importantly, was this operation just the beginning of a broader campaign to completely reclaim the Sahel from extremist control? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: Africa is changing, and young leaders like Traoré are redefining what it means to defend sovereignty with firepower and fearlessness. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit that like button, subscribe for more raw, unfiltered analysis from the front lines of global events, and let us know in the comments, do you believe Traoré is the future of African leadership? Or is this path too dangerous to sustain? The world is watching, and this story, it's only just beginning.